49 Yellow Heart Gang, you already know what time it is. The language of letting go. Today is July 22nd. Learning to trust again. Many of us have trust issues. Some of us tried long and hard to trust untrustworthy people. Over and again, we believed lies and promises never to be kept. Some of us tried to trust people for impossible. For instance, trusting a practicing alcoholic not to drink again. Some of us trusted our higher power inappropriately. We trusted God to make other people do what we wanted, then felt betrayed when that didn't work out. Some of us were taught that life couldn't be trusted, that we had to control and manipulate our way through. Most of us were taught inappropriately that we couldn't trust ourselves. In recovery, we're healing from our trust issues. We're learning to trust again. The first lesson in trust is this: we can learn to trust ourselves. We can be trusted. If others have taught us we cannot trust ourselves, they were lying. Addictions and dysfunctional systems make people lie. We can learn to appropriately trust our higher power, not to make people do what we want them to, but to help us take care of ourselves and to bring about the best possible circumstances at this best possible time in our lives. We can trust the process of life and recovery. We do not have to control, obsess, or become hypervigilant. We may not always understand where we are going or what's being worked out in us, but we can trust that something good is happening. When we learn to do this, we are ready to learn to trust other people. When we trust our higher power and when we trust ourselves, we will know who to trust and what to trust for that person. Perhaps we always did. We just didn't listen closely enough to ourselves or trust what we heard. Today, I will affirm that I can learn to trust appropriately. I can trust myself, my higher power, my recovery. I can learn to appropriately, trust others too. You know, I don't like when I read this, it's just not for people in recovery. You know what I'm saying? Take what resonates. You know, a lot of us were taught to don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone. And that is such a lonely life. And people think that's safe. You know, because if you don't trust anybody, it's like you only trust yourself. That's it. But do you really trust yourself? Think about that. Do you really trust yourself? You know what I mean? Like, learn to trust yourself so you can learn to trust others. You know, this process is just not for people in recovery. Like, yes, it is geared towards people in recovery. But if you're healing from something, even for the smallest things, like look at what it says. Like, learning to trust again. Many of us have trust issues. How many of y'all have trust issues? How many? How many of you like, no, listen, I'll never trust anybody again? How many people were taught that? You know what I'm saying? It says some of us were taught that life couldn't be trusted, that we had to control and manipulate our way through. You don't have to control or manipulate your way through. You really don't. You know, let me tell you something. You got to accept the things you cannot change. And I say that to y'all because I say that to myself. There's a lot of things that I just cannot change. Like, I'm beginning to trust and know myself wholeheartedly with everything in me. You know, and learning to let stuff go. Let it go. No foot in the door. The door is closed. And that's with any situation, with anyone. If it's not serving you. You know what I'm saying? Is not trusting anyone really serving you? And if it is, great. But if it's not, learn to trust yourself. Because if you can learn to trust yourself, you can trust others. Because now you know you can trust people. And what I mean is, I think people look at trust the wrong way. Trust them to be who they are. You got to trust people to be exactly who they are, who they present themselves to be. And I'm not saying people that can't change. I'm not saying that people cannot change. Change is for everybody. But what I will say is this, is that allow a person to show you the change. Just don't believe in the potential of change, because what if that potential never happens? What if they don't live up to that? And now you've got wasted time, and now you're back at square one, not trusting anyone. Okay, learn to trust yourself so you can now learn to trust. Because if you trust yourself, you can trust your own discernment, your own judgment. You know what you're going to tolerate, what you're not going to tolerate, your boundaries, everything. You start to learn yourself and trust yourself. And I say that passionately because that's something that I am currently doing and have been practicing and putting into play, because you got to trust yourself. Because when you trust yourself, you can trust that other people are going to be exactly who they are and learn to accept that and deal with them accordingly. All right. The language of letting go. Yellow Heart Gang.